Hello, everybody. I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes, and welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings. Today's book is The Tinsel November, as we see on the cover, by Julia Rhys, and illustrated by Carol Barker because it is illustrated, and they're lovely, lovely illustrations. Um, Not that you can tell by the cover, of course, but it's an interesting stylized pen and ink sketch style of drawing. This book was published as a side note by Rupert Hart-Davis, Sir Rupert Hart-Davis, who led an interesting enough life that you should probably Google that up on your own time. But we're not talking about Rupert Hart-Davis, we're talking about this book. So what I mean by the illustrations is to take a look at this. This book is set somewhere in England, probably London. I don't think it's ever quite specified, although I could have missed it when I was reading. But you can see how this is the pen and ink style of this drawing, but at the same time, and this is an atmospheric setting for the start of the book, just to sort of give you an idea of the street on which Well House, which is where the bulk of this story happens, is situated. Um, and you can see the stylization better here in this picture of three of the lead characters. On the bottom right, we have Emma, who is the foster daughter of Elizabeth Astor. We have Guy Minotti, who is the one on the left here, and on the right, we have the unusual character who sort of sets off the plot of this book, Arlechino. Um, this is a story about a girl and her friend Guy and how they discover several living marionettes who, by implication at least, are perhaps a century or more old. And they are marionettes from Italy who worked as actors and who, due to an unfortunate event involving an evil Englishman, were taken from their homes, kidnapped, and being mistaken, one suspects, for inanimate marionettes, were sold off to various people in an auction. Arlecchino came all the way to England from Italy because he was out when the others were taken, and it has taken him years and years to find them all. And his appearance is what sets everything off. But what's very, very interesting about this is the way that the marionettes' lives have been intertwined with all of them for so many years in terms of where they are and where they've been staying. Because the auction was at Well House, where where they had all been kept. And among the various things that are very interesting in this book is that Aunt Elizabeth, Elizabeth Astor, um, is Emma's foster mother. She adopted Emma and is now a widow. And they are living together in the basement of Well House, which is owned by a solicitor by the name of Mr. Povey, who is something of an antagonist throughout this book because he doesn't want them to take on lodgers, and indeed at the end of the book, in a line that frankly I always found just a little bit funny, he comes storming in shouting about dwarves, vermin, blacks, unhygienic animals, noisome musicians, lodgers. I always thought it was amusing that he placed lodgers on the same level of awfulness as noisome musicians, unhygienic animals, and vermin. Um, of course, yes, he is prejudiced against quote unquote dwarves, what we would now call little people, and blacks, but it's nonetheless amusing that he would place lodgers in that same list. Aunt Elizabeth is a character that I really, really love just because she rolls with everything. This is not the adult who you can't tell about the magical adventures because she'd never understand. This is the adult that Guy says, "Oh, you can't tell her. Adults don't understand." And Emma says, "No, no, she understands. She tells fortunes and she gets a special magazine." And she goes and finds her aunt who says, "Sure, we can clear out a cupboard for the live living marionette to sleep on." When another one of them shows up, filthy and smelling and dragging a cello with him, she's like, "Sure, I'll just get out the carbolic soap because he smells funny." She takes all of it in stride so wonderfully that you can't help but adore the way she does that. So here's another lovely atmospheric picture. It's set on Guy Fawkes Day. Guy Fawkes Day is actually the reason why Guy's name is Guy. His parents, the Minottis, are actually Italian immigrants to what we are assuming is London. And for some reason, they assumed that Guy of Guy Fawkes Day was a national hero. Um, I'm not quite sure how they got that out of people nationally burning him in effigy every year, along potentially with the Pope, because that's part of what you're supposed to do on Guy Fawkes Day. You set off fireworks and you burn Guy Fawkes and the Pope in effigy. Um, remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason, and plot. There is no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot, goes the rhyme. And Guy's birthday is on November 5th, and he always feels a little bit off about that one. But in any event, you can see children on the streets playing with their fireworks, and again, I love I love the style of these illustrations. I love this stylized pinwheel here and the other fireworks, the Catherine wheel. I never remember what fireworks are called in particular. Um, and the pawn shop, which looms large in this chapter because it's where one of the marionettes has been held captive for years. Um, and here we have two of the marionettes. We have Poppinillo, and she had been hiding herself for years as Emma's doll Tatty, but this is actually the marionette Clarabella. And here's a picture that I love from later in the book when they go looking for Mozo, who was apparently purchased by a boatman named Charles Jennings, we see over here. And I love this for the details. I also apologize for the alarm going off on my tablet, which has my timer on it. I love the little flowers up here. I love the two swans in the background, and I love all of the flowers and little detailing all over this boat. That she's got little flowers on her mitts and the holes in the bait bucket, and all of this over here, this grass and stuff next to the water. I really, really, these are gorgeous illustrations, and the book is worth it for this alone. And here is the last illustration in the book, which I probably shouldn't show you, but this is with all of the marionettes together. Dulciana with her wings, Arlechino, Columbina, because he came for them all, but he came for Columbina especially. And there's Mozo with his storm lantern, and Trombo with his pet hedgehog, because he shows up at Aunt Elizabeth's basement that she's living in, and when Emma calls Aunt Elizabeth saying he's brought a hedgehog, she's like, "Lay down some newspaper. I think they eat bread and milk." She just rolls with it. I love that woman. And there's Clarabella, formerly known as Tatty, and this is Poppinillo, who is carrying his cello, and we see Emma at the front there from behind. And this beautiful atmospheric shot of the connecting underground pathway from Well House, where Emma and Aunt Elizabeth live, and with their landlord's law office above. And there's this underground passage that everyone, even the verger, forgot between there and the church. And the story ends so beautifully. It's a kind of quiet joy, and it invokes the kind of quiet joy that is supposed to be at least partly uh, at least partly the kind of joy that you're supposed to feel on Christmas. It's the joy of these marionettes finally coming together, finally finding a safe haven, finally finding a new master who will help them, who will understand them. Poppinillo being reunited with a cello with the chance to play music again, having Guy as his student because he's promised that he will teach Guy music because Guy wants to be a musician and has had so much trouble getting lessons. And Clarabella has her wings again, and Arlechino and Columbina have been reunited, and it's this beautiful, joyous ending after all of the stress and the trouble and the worry of the whole of that previous November, that all of this has been happening basically since the end of October up to December. These marionettes have been in Emma's life, in Guy's life, in Aunt Elizabeth's life, and it has been beautiful and transformative, and I love this book because it's just such a it's just such a beautiful story. It's a story that goes happily and ends happily, and it's difficult to describe because I feel large parts of this story are very, very atypical. There's not excitement, there isn't chases down the street, there isn't high drama, there's worry that they'll be caught by people who wouldn't understand. There's concerns about the fact that Aunt Elizabeth doesn't make so much money. There's Emma worrying about doing the locking up, which is capitalized because Emma is 11 and is feeling very, very grown up that she is given the responsibility of locking up the office and everything. Um, and and I have always loved the sadness and just the way that everybody is, the way that it works out in the end. That we go from Arlecchino showing up sick and ill and desperate for the candlelight that apparently sustains him, saying in his not very good English, "Of Columbina you know nothing," and to get to the end, where Arlecchino was leading Columbina proudly by the hand. "To act the Nativity," he said, "on Christmas Eve," finished Columbina. And they are all so happy. And I won't read the very last line because you should get to that last line in concert with the rest of the book and how the book went. But this is a story that I cannot describe as anything but beautiful. And if you enjoy a story of that nature with such a poetic, peacefully joyful ending, then I cannot help but recommend this book. As I said, if nothing else, the illustrations are gorgeous, so that alone should be an enticement, assuming you can find it. The information, as always, will be in the description below, and thanks everyone for coming. I hope To see you next time.